Hello, welcome to CEC Online Lectures. I have decided to discuss with you basic tools for argument. And these basic tools belong to that branch of philosophy which is quite popular yet technical. I'm talking about logic. We often hear people using the word logic in sentences. For example, I like your logic. I don't agree with your logic. Or don't give me this stupid logic. Now, what is going on? Truly, such sentences do affect us. On hearing the sentence, your logic is good, we definitely experience this gratifying feeling of achievement. But the sentences of the sort, bad logic, or don't give me the stupid logic, sound so intimidating. So, what to do? It is true that logic is an art. It makes you reason better. It helps in analyzing, evaluating, and even manipulating philosophical arguments and theories. Now, if it can do so much, we must get a grasp of it and learn the rules of the game. Seriously, just as every art, every pursuit works on some rules and techniques, so does logic. A carpenter, for example, has mastered the art of carpentry. He knows the skill. He has grasped a whole body of knowledge relating to making of furniture, which includes cutting the wood, using the tools, and then polishing the piece, and so on. The procedure he follows may be simply codified, but the mastery of the procedure comes from his repeating the procedure several times each day. This is why he is a professional carpenter. Of course, we cannot do this job the way a skilled carpenter does, as we don't have mastery of the procedure like he does from his experience. And so is the case with logic. As I said, logic is an art, and it too has its own set of tools and techniques. If we use the tools and techniques in the best possible way, then of course we will get to hear sentences like, great logic. Wow, what logic? Because by using these tools and techniques properly, we acquire, if not master, the ability to think critically and philosophize better. And when we do that, people begin to take us seriously. Like the carpenter, a logician repeats the procedure endlessly with derivations and proofs, which gives him the mastery that he acquires through this experience. At this point, I want to narrate an interesting portion from the popular Sherlock Holmes story, Silver Blaze. The purpose is to tell you that reasoning is not an uncommon thing in our life. But reasoning that is philosophically interesting is of the inferential kind, where with the help of some given facts or clues, we can come to conclusions and take decisions. So, coming back to the story Silver Blaze. It is about the disappearance of a racehorse a night before the race. The horse trainer is also found murdered, and Sherlock Holmes is asked to investigate the case. Now, carefully listen to the conversation between the Scotland Yard detective and Sherlock Holmes. And the conversation goes like this. Gregory, who is a Scotland Yard detective, asks Sherlock Holmes, is there any other point to which you would wish to draw my attention? And Sherlock Holmes says, to the curious incident of the dog in the night time. Gregory says, the dog did nothing in the night time. And Holmes says, that was the curious incident. Now, the dog in the stable did nothing means it did not bark. And it was an important clue that led to identifying the criminal, because Holmes could figure out that the criminal was not a stranger to the dog but someone the dog recognized, and so it did not bark. Holmes drew a conclusion from a fact that did not occur, which in fact was expected to occur. So, if we use our logical abilities and equip ourselves with the tools and techniques of logic, then we can reason well, argue well, and decide well. So, as a stepping stone, I want to start with the fundamental tools of logic. And the first tool is called argument. People will only listen to you if your words carry weight. I mean, if you want to draw the attention of people towards your reasoning concerning an issue, then the content and structure of your reasoning must be exact and precise. Now, generally, we associate the word argument with some sort of dispute or war of words between two or more people. This is not the argument I am talking about, because in the dispute scenario, there are hardly any chances of any reasoning involved. We can call this arguing to distinguish it from argument as used in logic. For a philosopher, the word argument is used in a narrower sense. It is the most fundamental and yet a complete unit of reasoning. It is an inference from one proposition or a series of propositions which we call premises to another proposition called the conclusion, which is the claim one wishes to make. Here I want to make an important distinction between an argument and an explanation, because people generally get confused between the two. An explanation is a statement that gives reason for something. It is different from an argument in the sense that the purpose of an argument is to demonstrate that something is true. In other words, an argument provides the basis or evidence for us to believe that the conclusion is true, while the purpose of an explanation is to show how that something is true. That is, in the case of explanation, the reason that is given points to the cause of what is stated in the conclusion. Now, coming back to arguments. As you know that an argument consists of premises and conclusion, it is important to understand what sort of sentences these premises and conclusion are. See, our language is vast and we use many kinds of sentences. But not all sentences are logically significant. In logic, we are concerned only with those sentences which make a claim that is either true or false. And these are called propositions. So propositions are either true or false. For example, when I make a claim that Qutub Minar is in Delhi, you can affirm or deny this proposition depending on what the fact is. Now, sentences other than propositions are commands, questions, and exclamations. And neither of these can be true or false. Imagine somebody asking, "Is this a book or a computer?" and in return getting the answer true. Won't that be odd? And likewise for commands and exclamations. It would be odd to ask whether do your homework is true or false. So you understand that only propositions can be asserted as either true or false. So now we have two more terms, premises and conclusion. It is easy to understand what a conclusion is. It is that proposition with which an argument ends. It is the result of the inference which is brought about by the support of other propositions. Now let us see what a premise is. A premise is a claim which is offered in support of the conclusion. Now all these claims being propositions are either true or false. So if you wish to make or offer an argument, you need to first think what exactly you wish to claim or prove. And secondly, you need to reflect on what evidences or other claims your argument depends on. Suppose you, as a journalist, make a claim that Mr. A is a bad employer because one of your friends told you that he is quite disrespectful towards his employees. But this is just one evidence. You may wish to look for other claims to support your argument, and you search for more. And you find out that he does not pay the full salary of some of his employees. You further get to know that he makes his employees sit in office beyond the office hours. Now you have enough evidence to prove and support your claim. You need to keep one thing in mind that there are certain premise indicators as well as conclusion indicators, just in case you wish to analyze an argument. Phrases and words like it follows that, therefore, consequently, hence, or from this we can infer, they all indicate conclusions. And words and phrases like for this reason, because, since indicate premises. But there are also times when we come across unstated or implicit premises. Consider the argument because Manipuris are Indians, so Manipuris are Asians. It makes sense to you because you can figure out here what the unstated or implicit premise is. The unstated premise here is all Indians are Asians. Now, what we need to keep in mind is plain and simple. 1. Premises are the starting points or claims of a philosophical argument. 2. Premises provide evidence for the conclusion. 3. Premises sometimes need justification for their own truth, in which case they are conclusions of some other argument, and sometimes they are true by definition, and so they need no justification. And 4. Conclusion is the end point in the chain of inferences. I will discuss with you two arguments, both claiming opposite theses, and the premises offered by the two sides look equally strong. If you know, a few decades ago, there was a huge debate about building a dam in the Narmada Valley. There were people in favor of the construction of the dam, and there were also people who opposed the construction of the dam. Those who favored gave the argument building the dam will greatly benefit agrarian and industrial progress, as it will generate electricity which can be used by farmers as well as industries. In the construction of the dam, many villages will be displaced, but these displaced people will be compensated for, and the little discomfort they get is justified in the name of greater progress for all. Hence, the dam should be built. And those who opposed the construction of the dam argued, no doubt the dam will bring greater progress. But for whom? The majority of the people in the area will not receive the benefits of this progress, as the benefits will be mainly channeled to the industrialists and thereby to the middle class consumers and not to the poor. The displacement of hundreds of villages is too steep a cost for what little benefits that the dam will bring about. Many of these villages consist of tribal people who have lived in the valley as long back as history takes us. It is just not correct to displace them and compensate them monetarily or in other ways. Further, there will be ecological damages that have not been properly assessed. Hence, the dam should not be constructed. Now, the strength of the argument lies in the strength of the premises. If the premises are strong and convincing, the argument will be strong and convincing. Let us now move on to the two forms of argumentation. These are deduction and induction. Now, deduction is that form of argumentation in which we move from premises to conclusion in such a manner that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. A deductive argument is structured in a way which guarantees the truth of the conclusion. We can say it is a methodical and precise way of argumentation. Take, for example, an argument of the form Shaktiman lighted a lamp to show his solidarity with the frontline warriors of the corona pandemic. All people who lighted lamps to show their solidarity with the frontline warriors of the corona pandemic are humanitarians. Therefore, Shaktiman is a humanitarian. You may wonder that there is something wrong here because you know that Shaktiman is not a humanitarian simply because he does not exist. And you may think that this whole talk of conclusion being true when the premises are true may sound quite weird. But if it does, that means you have not understood what deductive argument is about. So I repeat, the definition of a deductive argument. It is an argument in which if the premises are true, then it would be impossible for the conclusion to be false. I agree that in our example, the conclusion is not true and one of the premises is not true. But that does not change the fact that this is a deductive argument. Since if it so happened that Shaktiman emerged from somewhere and he did light a lamp to show his solidarity with the frontline warriors of the corona pandemic, and that all those who lighted a lamp to show their solidarity with the frontline warriors of the corona pandemic are humanitarians, then it would necessarily follow that Shaktiman is a humanitarian. However, you must remember one thing, that the conclusion follows from the premises. It is contained in the premises. To judge the force of deduction, listen to this. The murder was planned. Only Advocate Desai knew where Mr. Singh would be that night. So, the murderer is dash. We would all love to jump at the conclusion through deduction that the murderer is Advocate Desai. But hold on, we are not supposed to conclude without evaluating each and every premise. Anyway, let us now discuss induction. In contrast to deductive form of reasoning, induction involves an inference where the conclusion follows from the premises not with necessity but with probability. In induction, we start from a limited or large number of observations, but not all observations, and reach probable generalizations. Here, if the premises are true, then it is unlikely that the conclusion is false. So, the terms strong and weak are used to evaluate the inference in inductive arguments. Suppose there is a dog in your neighborhood, and every time you have passed by it, it has never tried to bite you. So you conclude that the next time when you pass by the dog, it will not bite you. Now the argument will be stronger if the number of instances are more of your passing by the dog and is not biting you, say for about 200 times over a year. However, the argument will be weak if there are only few instances of your passing by the dog and his not biting you, say 10 times since you have encountered the dog. There could also be additional relevant conditions which could make the reasoning either strong or weak. I'm sure that in the course of your life, you have witnessed countless instances of animals eating their food, whatever it is. We see the herbivores eating plants or grass, the carnivores hunting and eating their food, and the omnivores eating other animals and plants. So, inductive reasoning tells us that all animals must eat to survive. And this is a claim which no one will contest. But think again. Have you seen all animals on earth eating their food? Of course not, for that is not possible. But we can reach this conclusion because we have witnessed ample number of times animals eating food. Also, our basic knowledge of science tells us that animals need food to survive. So, this kind of reasoning is called inductive, where we are not certain about the conclusion as we have not witnessed all the cases. So, we base it on probability. The standard example of inductive reasoning in the textbooks of logic is about the sun rising tomorrow. We know that the sun has always risen every day in the past, so it will probably rise tomorrow. But there is no guarantee that nothing would happen to prevent the sun from rising. We generally find inductive reasoning in the world of science because scientists conduct their experiments and base their theories by observing only limited or large number of cases, but not all the cases. Inductive reasoning holds great importance because where deduction remains silent, we have no choice but to rely on induction. So, this is about some of the basic tools and techniques of argument. We'll continue with the same topic in my next lecture. Stay safe. Thank you.